Welcome back to another episode of the Fit Family podcast, which we just decided is maybe due for a rename and a refresh. So stay tuned on that. Let's just add that to the never-ending list of things to do. Welcome, Dan.
Thank you.
So today we are going to get to a question that we didn't get to last week, because we are aware that for every minute you listen to this, you could be doing something else, and for that we are grateful. So we don't want to take up too many more minutes than we have to of your time, but there were a couple of questions that we thought we should break down, and we are gonna get to those. And we've also got a big topic. We ask our clients every week for topics and questions that they may have that is relevant to them, and we always say that anything that is relevant to you in this moment, someone else is probably thinking it. So if always you have a question, yell out anytime. You're not the only one who's going to be working through it. So where should we start? You had a good one before.
Which one? The all or nothing?
Yeah, absolutely. So all or nothing, I would say that most people who start our program have mentioned this as being something that's plagued them in the past. And it basically just means specifically with health as opposed to anything else, I think. And, it can obviously show up in other areas of your life, but it's over-investing in this one thing to the point where it becomes unsustainable, and then falling off the wagon for a long time before picking it back up, and it just doesn't work. And anyone who's listening to this would probably recognize that, though you may not have maybe taken the steps to resolve it yet. But that all or nothing protocol, and you're working with a client at the moment who's working through this, and she's very early on in her journey and doing a really good job. But you can tell that it's something that she's probably wrestled with in the past.
Yeah, absolutely. So trying to do everything at once can be so overwhelming. So to break it down is what we do every day with every single client, is just break it down into actionable tasks. Repeatable. Yeah, absolutely. And then building on that week after week after week. And then they see progress that is then sustainable. It's not changing their entire lifestyle. It's working on one thing that's going to make it a little bit better.
Yeah, and the thing that we need to understand first and foremost with health and fitness is that how hard you try is not always going to be reflected in how quickly you get results. It's not like like studying for 5 hours a night instead of 2. You will not get outsized returns from investing significantly more energy than you may need to just to get the ball rolling. Now, I don't know if I've articulated that pretty well, but what I mean is that your body will only burn fat and gain fat at a certain speed. So what we like to try and find is not how much can you do, but almost at the other end is how little can we do that's still going to stimulate a response, because that means that it's not going to be overtaking your entire life.
Yeah. That maintained stimulus, you're right. That is a good way to articulate it.
Okay, good. Good.
So anyone can do anything for short periods of time.
Oh, yeah.
We often talk about relying on motivation, and that's one of our questions we ask every single week to our one-on-one clients that we're coaching. What is your motivation level? And what I love explaining is when they get some awesome results and their motivation is at like a 1 or 2.
Yeah.
Because then that's a great reflection that it's the behaviours and habits that we've set up that are holding them in a really good place.
Yeah.
That regardless of that motivation level, they can still execute.
Yeah, and the way we structure that up as well is typically people will fill out, that subjective feedback piece that we ask for before a coaching chat, before they do the measurements. Because no doubt, if you jump on the scales and you've lost 800 grams or a kilo or whatever it is, that may then tweak how motivated you feel in that next moment. So separating the subjective feeling of the week versus the objective results of the week. All right, there.
Choking on water.
Is important, because it then allows you to disassociate, as my co-host just dies, allows you to disassociate the way you feel versus what you do. And too many people link what they do to the way they feel, which means that as soon as we're having a tough week or as soon as we have a few bad nights of sleep, all of a sudden it impacts our emotions and our feelings of capabilities of doing the things that's going to get us the results. Which results on autopilot is something that we tell clients all the time. Like, can we do it even when we don't want to do it? Because that's when we're going to be successful. And that's what that all or nothing approach ignores. Because it's just, I'm all in. And it's like, it's not like, I guess it's kind of admirable. Like it shows that it's important to you, but it's just not going to get you anywhere close to where you want to be in the long run. Because even if you are successful in the short term, you then link that success to that massive amount of effort that you had. And then when you can't do that massive amount of effort, then it's like, oh, what's the point? Yeah, I don't know. It's just sort of, it's one of those ones that when you break down with people, there's holes everywhere and they can understand it. But it does take a little bit of practice to kind of just embrace a bit of a more slow and steady philosophy for sure.
Yeah.
It's something that we noticed over the 12 weeks. And I think I went on a massive rant a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, you do see that shift, and it is lovely to see as you do go through the process when they start to see, oh, okay, yeah, and another stepping stone, and then when it all kind of comes together, and that point is different for everybody. Yeah, where that point is.
What about our client this week who lost 1.1 kgs and said, "Oh, it wasn't even intentional. I just sort of followed my normal meals."
Yeah, that was quite funny.
To which we said, "Oh well, but your normal meals at the moment are constructed in a way where that is the intention." She said, "Oh yeah." So, but that's really good feedback for us because that's what we want.
Yes.
We don't want people waking up, grabbing their sword and shield and going to war every day and, slicing cupcakes and ignoring every temptation. Like it's not that important. Like you need to be able to live your life. So, having a routine and a custom built game plan for that life for you, it's just always going to be number one.
Yeah.
All or nothing in the bin.
In the bin. Perfection is not what we're looking for.
Well, it's just not a real thing.
No.
Yeah. Well, that's another topic. But all right, so let's get to the question that we had last week, and it was based on warm-ups and cool-downs, and in specifically cool-downs. Why don't you explain what a cool-down is, and then we'll go on to it.
Yeah, so this person has trained before, done a lot of online programs, and typically they are structured in a certain way. So warm-up, workout, cool-down.
Yep.
That would be quite common across the board.
Yeah.
Whereas with our program, everybody gets to a certain point, and again, that's different for everyone, where we look at what they're doing in terms of their exercise, and we try and optimize that. So we offer them a custom program based on what they're currently doing. So I had a look at what this client was currently doing, which was fine. It was actually quite a good app, decent. Just it didn't have that progressive overload that we're looking for obviously to
continue to improve.
That's what we're always looking for. And I started programming for this person, so they then got their custom workouts, and they had a question: why is there no cool down?
Yeah.
And I was like, great question. We're going to talk about it on our podcast.
Yeah, so a cool down is typically performed at the end of the session, and its sole goal is to help speed up recovery. So what it might look like is if you've just finished a run or a fairly intense workout, by keeping your heart rate elevated for a period of time with gentle movement, either a slower jog or some kind of stretching or just general movement at the end of the session, it keeps your heart rate elevated, which means that your body is continuing to push oxygen around your body to help speed up recovery. That's all it is. It's not necessarily, there are some links to it helping with soreness and things like that, no doubt. I'm not going to say that they're wrong, but it's probably not something that I've personally experienced, though that's not the be all and end all, obviously. But it's one of those things that in the hierarchy of needs, and we work with people who very rarely do they say, I've got all the time in the world. Now, if you are an athlete or you're training for something that is quite demanding athletically and you do need to really put extra emphasis on your recovery, then a cool down would be worth your time.
Absolutely.
Because you have to return to baseline and be ready to perform again fairly soon. For most of us year round, that's not a reality. We need to make the most of the time we have training. And if I spent 10 minutes on a warm up and 10 minutes on a cool down, to me personally, and a lot of the clients that we work with, that cool down time especially would be better served doing some more exercise to kind of progress their health at a higher intensity.
Yeah, absolutely. So maximizing that time you have in the gym.
Yeah.
In the space that is going to give you the most reward.
Absolutely. In the same way, it's a similar type thing as when people are really getting into the nuts and bolts of something like pre and post workout nutrition, which is, it's a real thing. It's something that can improve your results, but then eat Maccas and KFC for the rest of the day. But it's like, well, we'd probably get better results if we sorted out the big stuff first. Yeah. And then we can look at the smaller things. And it's the same type of approach to your workouts. We're not saying it's useless. We're just saying that it's probably a little bit unnecessary for most people who we work with.
We don't prioritize it. Warm up, on the other hand, preparing the body is a little bit more important, especially for beginners.
Yeah.
So for a more experienced trainer, so like for ourselves, for example, if we go into the gym, we know when we're kind of warmed and prepped and we can just start doing exercises with a lighter load for that warm-up, whereas a beginner would give kind of different exercises to get the blood flow going and get them warmed up.
Warm-ups are, they can also play a little bit more of a psychological role as well. It's almost like just switching off from what you were doing and into kind of training mode. I think they're incredibly valuable for that. But the sole goal of a warm-up is to warm up your core body temperature to get yourself ready to move. Yep. So once you're warm and your heart rate's up and you're feeling loose and, like in the zone, you get going.
Yeah, and absolutely important in reducing your chance of any type of injury as well.
Yeah. I mean, I used to train with a dude who, I was trying to think, how do I word this? He could have probably gotten better results if he didn't spend the first 50% of his workout with a band flossing every area. I'm like, well, what are you doing? Like, mate, start squatting.
Yeah.
Like, dead set. He was king of the warm-up.
Yeah. There might be a reason as well. So anyone that has come off like an injury and done a lot of rehab work and that kind of thing.
Totally.
Quite often coming out of that, they do struggle because of that mindset and I guess the fear. Yeah.
Make no mistake. Any advice that we're giving on, a podcast like this is to the general man. And, if you're listening to this and you're like, well, if I don't warm up and cool down, then I'm going to have a terrible workout, then this advice is not for you. We're talking to people who feel as though maybe they're missing out on something when in actual fact their performance is still good. They're getting good results. They feel strong when they train, and they would probably benefit from 3 or 4 more harder sets of exercise than a few cat-cows and leg swings.
And quite often, I had this conversation with this client as well, just being active after your workout would play a bigger role as well. So just making sure you are moving outside of that dedicated exercise will have such a big impact on recovery as well.
Yeah, for sure. Like if we looked at why the cool down was important, just to maintain blood flow and keep oxygenated blood going around to tired muscles, a walk around the block would do the same thing. Yep. Which would also then help your step count and all other areas of your health that typically people are trying to improve. So we would just say it has its place, but it probably doesn't have its place for a lot of the people that we work with when time is really of the essence. Like in the name of efficiency, it's just not that big a deal.
Yeah.
Happy with that?
I am, well done.
We nailed that. Moving on. We did also have a question. This is a really good one. So VO2 max. Now, the question specifically was, how do I train my VO2 max?
Oh, okay, yeah.
Now, what a VO2 max is, it's basically your body's ability to use the most amount of oxygen that you're breathing in. Like how much oxygen that you breathe in, are you able to then get out to the working muscles to fuel your performance?
Yeah. And it is used as a health indicator.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's a really good measure of fitness.
Yeah.
Really is. People who can use oxygen more efficiently can work out at a higher intensity for a longer amount of time, which most people would then associate with higher levels of athletic capabilities and fitness. So VO2
so it is
max.
something that is tested when you're in that athletic world, like professional.
Oh, 100%, yes. So you may have seen videos of people with those taped around their mouth breathing into a tube on a treadmill. That's a VO2 max test.
Yeah.
Yeah, and just basically running until they're nearly ready to fall off the treadmill. Like, it's a brutal way to figure out how fit you are because it is a maximum test.
Yeah, so in terms of us and what we do and our coaching, what would be something that we would put into someone's program that would help their VO2 max?
Intervals. So the best way to train your VO2 max is with, I guess, bouts of high intensity exercise followed by a period of recovery, repeated a few times. Those of you in your custom on our custom programming would notice that we sporadically put those in. Pink on bikes, rowers, things like that. It's just jacking your heart rate up and then bringing it back down. It's the best way to quickly and efficiently kind of teach your body how to perform at a high level and then recover quickly and then perform again and recover quickly. Okay. There was a protocol, I think it came out of one of the Norse countries. I think it was Finland. This is terrible podcasting. Next time I'll do my research. But it's a 4-minute block of 4-minute sprint, 4-minute easy times by 4. And it was, anyone who's done
that would be hard.
high level cardio before, 4 minutes doesn't sound like a long time. But when you're running hard for 4 minutes, that's heart rate in your mouth and your legs are about to fall off. That's hard yakka. And then that 4-minute recovery goes really slowly. Yeah. Ugh. Yuck.
4 minutes is a long time.
Yeah, we won't do that. Anyone who's done a 2K row time trial would easily be able to see how long 4 minutes feels like. So that's your VO2 max. It's as you mentioned right off the top, it's one of the really key indicators of longevity. Is it's like that one, and then a less obvious one is the grip strength. Yeah, which always surprises people. Grip strength is the number one indicator for longevity in a human's physical capacity, which is a bit odd because you wouldn't necessarily associate it with living a long time. But there you go.
Crazy, isn't it?
Yeah.
Makes me feel good that I can beat you at a farmer's carry.
Yeah, that was... I wouldn't say I lose my temper often, but I definitely spat the dummy that day. That was a nightmare.
All right, I think we had one more, which was on our menstrual cycle?
Yes, it was.
What was the question specifically?
Let me bring it up.
Well, while Ben does that, just knowing, obviously we coach a lot of women, and your menstrual cycle does have a big impact on your behaviours and your overall health and well-being. It is an indicator of good health again.
Absolutely.
Having a regular cycle and that kind of thing.
I've got the question here if we want to answer it,
sure.
Then we'll break it down. So how does one accommodate the luteal phase, which is the back end of your cycle, the last 2 weeks, when you're trying to keep to your good eating habits, but all you want to do is eat the whole cupboard and the kitchen sink?
Yeah. Okay, great question.
Wonderfully written. Yeah.
I love it.
We appreciate it.
That is real, and we like real questions.
Yeah.
So we're currently working on getting a guide out to all of our clients on the menstrual cycle. And like I said, it can be different for every female, just like we all experience different symptoms and that kind of thing.
It will be. It will be for sure.
Talking about, like you said, the luteal phase, which is the back end, where people tend to get cravings.
Yeah. So this is typically the period that most people would kind of feel as though their cycle is affecting them, beyond just the obvious period part where obviously it's affecting you. We're talking more behaviorally here.
Yeah. So what happens during this phase is our progesterone actually rises. So that's when you start to get the symptoms, basically. So what to do? That's a funny one. In terms of behaviours, we recommend things like making sure you have prepped things like snacks. And that's simply to avoid impulse eating. Okay? We have conversations with people all the time, like they think they're abnormal or weird that they are craving something. That is completely normal to be craving foods. Your hormones, like we said, are changing, and that's a symptom of that. Most people tend to crave things like sugar during this time.
Hell yeah.
And things that can help, or foods that can help support you during this time, are things rich in magnesium. So dark chocolate is a good one, and a lot of people say chocolate, but then they'll have milk. It doesn't reap the same benefits.
The one thing we know about milk chocolate is one row leads to half a block. And the one thing we know about dark chocolate is one row typically means one row. Like, you just want to, we're talking about symptoms and things that can affect you, and everyone is going to have a unique experience in this. But basically the overall principle is, what are some things you can do ahead of time to just make your life a little bit easier?
Yeah, absolutely. And people tend to do things like skip their regular meals because they're feeling guilty because they
bloated, or like I'm full, and it's
so
not the best way to go about it.
To actually continue to eat the way you usually would with your regular meals, rather than skipping, which again leads to more cravings. So just controlling what we can control and giving our body what it wants and needs at that time. So focusing, like I said, things like dark chocolate are really handy. Bananas are really good. Avocado. And your complex carbs as well. So the things that are going to keep you fuller for longer. So think oats, brown rice, whole grains.
Everything you've just mentioned there is like, there's nothing that's going to give you like a sugar hit and then crash. Like it's all steady release in energy, high in vitamins, nutrients. Like, this is stuff that's obviously pretty universal year round, but it's just when you are feeling less than your best, then it's when you need to dial up the most like amount of self-care in a way. And one thing that's underrated that we've found works really well with clients over our journey is just ramping up your stress management practice. So when I talk to people about stress management, I'll say, well, what do you do to relax? And lots of people will look at me like, what do you mean relax? And I'm like, no, I totally get it. And I'm ready for that answer when I ask the question. But even if it's just something small, just to help you wind down, and then feel the most amount of control possible over your actions. When we're running around, playing catch up here, there, everywhere, and everything's really hard, then obviously this hormonal environment is going to heighten that. So trying to make things a little bit easier by constantly just working on feeling, I guess, as centered and as in control as you can.
Another thing we touch on...
Easier said than done, by the way. And all this stuff's like, it was like, obviously. It's like, no, I understand. I know it's hard. Yeah,
but another thing we touch on in this document is the impact on training. So this isn't a time where you want to be doing your high impact, killing yourself type workouts. This is a time where you want to shift into that lower impact space. Recover, rest a little bit longer during your rest periods and those kinds of things. It's not, you just don't work out. That's not what we mean by resting. And I think this is, if there was more education in this space, I think people would be a lot more...
logical, less emotional,
emotional in the on off. Like, I've got my period, I need to sit on the couch and have a wheat bag. Compared to I'm gonna go for a walk, or I'm gonna do a low impact. I don't need to kill myself and go for a HIIT session today. Because on Wednesday I normally do that.
Like, some people will be able to get through this time, the luteal phase in particular, and be absolutely fine. And other people will report really bad symptoms. And, like, it's you need to, I guess, have a level of self-awareness where you're not comparing yourself to what we're telling you might happen or what your friends tell you might happen, but your lived experience in this should shape the plan. So if if you feel fine and you're like, I never feel anything like that, I'm all good, then hey, party on.
Yep.
Not a problem. If you feel like you're having a sword stuck into your tummy, then it's like, okay, you need to adjust a little bit and maybe change the routine so that you don't have to take a step backwards because you can't perform the same way you did 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
It's so individual,
Yeah.
which is the hard part. And then it's like, well, I don't know what I can trust because that person is saying that thing. And then I've got the hardcore science heads saying that performance doesn't actually drop off at all. It just impacts the way I feel. And it's like, yeah, but if you feel a certain way, then naturally your performance might drop off. Muscles are muscles. They will contract and relax at the same rate. But if you don't feel good, it's going to be hard to contract and relax at the same rate. So it can be hard to find information that you can trust.
Absolutely. And the one thing we always advise is if it's different from your normal. So
Yep.
if something happens in your cycle that wouldn't normally happen,
Yeah,
then that's
worth noticing.
Yeah, then that's worth noticing, and then seeking medical advice if necessary.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, as you touched on at the start, we're just finalising the document now. We've got a list of, I guess, sources of information that we can give you guys throughout your journeys through our programs, at a stage that they're relevant to you. So, yeah, we look forward to helping you through, I guess, understanding on cycle as much of a range of other things.
Yeah.
Anything else you'd like to add on that?
No,
good one. I've got to duck off to school pickup. So, yeah. Guys, as always, have a good week. If you need us, you know where we are, and we will catch you on the next one.
See ya.